Ya lo han dicho los tres expertos que me han precedido. Lo que puedo decir para incentivar a los estudiantes es que el arbitraje está en todos lados. Y de hecho no se trata solo de arbitraje internacional, como dijo Jan Paulson, si no me equivoco, en el 2004. El arbitraje internacional no es internacional propiamente, sino que es un lenguaje universal. Y el arbitraje encuentra su casa, su sede, en cualquier parte del mundo. Entonces no es un arbitraje extranjero, ajeno. Tiene que ser el mismo lenguaje el que se habla aquí en Perú como el que se habla en la China, porque es un vehículo que, quieran o no, es el más importante mecanismo de resolución de disputas que hay actualmente, no solo en Perú, sino a nivel mundial. Nosotros tenemos una especie de paraíso, de isla en el mundo en donde el arbitraje en contratos con el Estado es obligatorio. Así que hay un montón de arbitraje, es una oportunidad inmejorable para todos los estudiantes, que ya sea que les guste el derecho ambiental, laboral, societario. El arbitraje es secretario, de salud, contrataciones públicas, civil, en todas las materias, energía, electricidad. Entonces, yo creo que incluso hasta debería ser un curso obligatorio. No sé si sigue siendo electivo el curso, pero de algún modo es importantísimo. Yo creo que todos deberían inscribirse y enterarse de lo que es el arbitraje y profundizar, investigar, porque no solamente llevar un curso, sino tratar de que dentro de esa línea el estándar de conocimiento sea de alta calidad, y para eso es justamente el Charter Institute of Arbitrators, que hemos hecho esfuerzos para hacerlos aterrizar aquí en Perú.
Y si me permiten añadir un punto, el Perú es el campeón en Latinoamérica de arbitrajes domésticos. Aunque Brasil tenga, por ejemplo, una economía más grande, el número de arbitrajes domésticos en Perú, en razón de los contratos con el gobierno, con el Estado, es mucho más grande, es 2 veces más que en Brasil. Sí, claro, es verdad que el idioma del arbitraje internacional es inglés. Sí hay arbitrajes internacionales en español en Brasil, por ejemplo, los centros de arbitraje más importantes tienen personas especializadas para conducir arbitrajes en español, porque sí hay en las relaciones intra-Latinoamérica, hay muchos contratos que son hechos con la lengua española y con la previsión de arbitraje en español. Y Juan Carlos dijo en el inicio que hay una categoría específica de miembros de CIAR que son los student members, los miembros estudiantes, y para quien ni se cobra la participación, es una participación gratis. Y es una oportunidad de estar en esta comunidad, conocer lo que es CIAR y poder involucrarse en el tiempo, involucrarse más, tornarse associate, member, fellows y poder con ello participar desde esa comunidad internacional.
Thank you so much for the answers. Now, regarding how important it is arbitration, not only in Peru but in all the world, and as a way to solve conflicts, I would like to ask, what was the most challenging thing about arbitration in your practice? I know that you have practiced a lot of time arbitration. What topics have brought a lot of debate or controversy? For example, as a personal experience, I remember that one of the problems in my course of arbitration was the asymmetrical arbitration clauses. In one case, so for example, in that part, what has been until now the most challenging thing about practicing arbitration?
Well, I think one very hot topic, not necessarily a problem for me, but a hot topic within the community at large, is arbitrator disclosures, the independence of arbitrators. what kind of disclosures need to be made, what relationships would mean that you could not sit as an arbitrator. There is not a national, or should I say international, standard for that. And so perhaps I make a disclosure in one country that would be appropriate, but it might not be appropriate in another country. So that is a challenge for arbitration and for arbitrators. In the investment arena, there has been a question about what they call double hatting, which means someone who sits as an arbitrator in investment treaty cases, but also acts as counsel. And is that a problem? And they have come up with rules to try to address that as well. So the question of arbitrator independence and impartiality is in fact an issue that we will be continuing to grapple with.
Yeah, I think in our experience in Brazil, one thing that we had to develop over the years, arbitration in Brazil is not so old. It has been around under more established rules for about 25 years only, and we had to develop working relationship between courts and arbitrators, courts and the arbitration community and the whole process. And courts were more reluctant to accept and respect arbitration in the beginning, but this process has been very fruitful, and some of the main arbitration hubs in Brazil, like São Paulo, for instance, they already have specialized courts that hear arbitration matters, so that when you go there and you have a hearing with a judge about a case that isn't a judicial case that is in support of arbitration, but a motion to compel arbitration or an action to set aside an arbitration award, the judge really knows the process, knows arbitration, and the judges are able to sort important matters from those complaints that are simply an attempt to overturn an arbitral award in a way that it should not be overturned. And so I think this challenge of developing awareness and knowledge in courts was a very important process in Brazil, and it's an experience that I think we should share.
Two quick answers. Contracts, those attorneys who are transactional are not those attorneys who represent parties in dispute. So those that draft the contract clause want to make it efficient. This will be done in 30 days. We want Cesar Pereira as our arbitrator. Well, what happens if Cesar is unavailable? What happens if the third-party administrator can't move the process within 30 days? So the transactional attorneys are not talking to those who actually know the process and have to guide the parties through it. So I think I run into that. Just in terms of a more infrastructural overview, which Cesar, you alluded to, I think in Brazil, it's really difficult for young people to find opportunities to arbitrate. Coming out of law school, American law schools, the average tuition is about $50,000 a year, which doesn't include the cost of living. So for the ultra competitive field that Anne alluded to earlier, which is international dispute resolution, it is extremely challenging to find an opportunity to even get a case.